Hello everyone, my name is Oskar Lagerosen and I'm the founder of The Total Living. Now I'm going to read out loud the 15th blog post in the One Glance article series covering why you should start as late as possible. So let's dive right into it. Let's imagine a common scenario. You have a term paper that is due in 2 weeks. However, you procrastinate and only start to think about it when it's 4 days left. The last 2 days are filled with great intensity when you write all 8 pages necessary. When you finally submit 1 hour before the deadline, you berate yourself for not starting earlier. After all, you should have started as soon as you received the assignment. But what if I told you instead that what you just did, i.e. waited until the last minute, was the best way to get it done? Instead of starting as early as possible, you start as late as possible. What if I told you that procrastination is a natural and very advantageous strategy? Let me explain. So, a recent and very popular method within manufacturing is to conduct long-term projects is critical chain project management. The method focuses on the longest chain of dependent tasks to complete the project. Moreover, it also solves the common problem of having the projects finished too late. And we need to introduce lead time and touch time, two concepts from the critical chain to understand this. Lead time represents the time planned to finish a task, while touch time represents the actual time you work on it. Project planners need to estimate how much each task takes to estimate the project accurately. In an ideal scenario, lead and touch time should be the same to get the perfect estimate. However, to avoid blame and potential delay, everyone would give a margin of safety. If we estimate that the task took 2 hours, we would more likely be proclaiming that it will take 3 hours to be on the safe side. Unfortunately, there are issues with this margin of safety approach that can often be unconscious because it does not scale up. If you add an extra hour to every task, all the hours for each task to the project will dramatically increase the lead time and thus delaying the entire project by adding a margin of safety for each task. And in construction projects, delays lead to large financial penalties. So it's not very pleasant to go over the deadline and budget. To add insult to injury, you're more likely to procrastinate if you know you can finish a task in 2 hours anyway. Take the example in the beginning in which the lead time for the assignment was 2 weeks, but the touch time was 2 days, and probably lots of coffee and stimulantia too. Despite all this excessive margin of safety, you still finish barely by the deadline. The same goes here in the task scenario, in which you only spend 2 hours anyway, but plan for 3 hours. Thus, we are presented with the worst of both worlds: a delayed plan with huge lead times, which is then ignored because everyone does them at the last minute anyway, because of procrastination and perfectionism and all that stuff. And it's a vicious cycle, since the incorrect assumption is to increase lead time even more because all the stress in the end, while still having the same results because everyone is still doing them at the end. So it doesn't really matter how much you increase the lead time here because people are still waiting. So how do we solve this dilemma? Then we have a concept called Parkinsons Law. And Parkinson's Law states that work expands to fill the available time allocated for it. In other words, if something is expected to take 3 hours, it will most likely take 3 hours. However, if you allocate only 15 minutes, it will take 15 minutes. This presents us with an opportunity to adjust the task to the touch time instead of the lead time. In other words, If a term paper is due in 2 weeks and you work on it for 2 days, Parkinson's Law states that it only took 2 days and should therefore be planned accordingly. So you should only allocate 2 days for it. And if a 3-hour task only took 2 hours, it should be planned at 2 hours. So in other words, a race to the bottom to align the lead time with the touch time. The amount of time needed to perform tasks is reduced by limiting the time available to work on them. By proactively planning this way, you solve the previous dilemma of estimating too much time than expected. And this is actually a very common practice now, especially in critical chain project management, Kanban, and just-in-time manufacturing. All of them adopt this mindset. Workers are expected to begin as late as possible to finish just in time. Therefore, no extra waste is created, and you can execute the next task accordingly. Furthermore, people can actually take advantage of the latest information to make better quality and judgment by waiting as long as possible. So, Parkinson's Law in projects ultimately leads us to this interesting conclusion. The earlier you start, the later you finish, and the later you start, the earlier you finish. So if you want to finish earlier, you should procrastinate until you finish the task at the end with tremendous flow and glory, because you're directly focused since you kind of have to. In addition, you will no longer become subject to perfectionism since the deadline is scarily close, which is something I use myself when I write and record these videos and episodes, since I only have tomorrow to then I can't really delay it so much more, which is very good actually. But I know what you're thinking. Oh, that sounds awesome, but what if an unexpected delay happens? And with no margin of safety, I'm screwed. And I don't want to be screwed, of course. Moreover, it sounds quite stressful too. Like if you have to go intensely at the end, it doesn't really sound so much sustainable. And yeah, it sounds correct, which leads us to Murphy's Law and buffers. Murphy's Law states that if anything can go wrong, it will probably go wrong. So therefore, it's reasonable to assume that all steps should have a margin of safety to survive an eventual blowout. But not all steps are affected by delays, only some. And some can be quite large, but still some. So critical chain project management has solved this by putting all margins of safety at the end. So if you previously had, okay, I had the margin of safety there, I have margin of safety there, margin of safety there, etc. You remove this margin of safety and put them all at the end. So you only have, okay, the finished tasks accordingly directly after one another, and then all the buffers at the end. So they are still there, but they protect the entire project instead of individual tasks. And it's also easier to control the lead time by adjusting the end tail, because you can see that, okay, it seems like we had 4 days of buffer, but it seems like only 2 days are necessary. So it's a very easy way to just make it earlier. So in conclusion, what does it really mean for you in terms of executing your own tasks and projects? If you want to be truly efficient, you want to finish this in the shortest time possible. By starting as late as possible, Parkinson's Law will ensure that you finish it in the shortest possible time, enabling maximum speed and focus. Begin with your current estimate and aim to shorten the time span over time and delay it further. Moreover, you should also put the margin of safety at the end in case of obstacles. But then the question is, how much margin of safety should you actually have? Ultimately, it depends on your judgment, but I recommend around 10 to 25% of the total time. If a project takes several days, you can allocate a day extra just for margin at the end. Tomorrow's post will present the art of adjusting the expectations and choosing the right actions, which is important to know when starting as late as possible. If you like this video episode and the article series overall, and wish that your friends could live a stress-free and productive life as well, please share it. And with that, I will say thank you for your attention and have a very nice day. See you in the next one.